Hey, welcome back to my channel. I am Ramona, and in this video we're talking about what is the scariest experiences that you've ever had in your life. Mostly paranormal, but some of these seem to be a little more supernatural, I guess you could say. I don't know. Anyway, when I was 16, I was crying in pain from Lyme's disease in a spare bedroom, undiscovered at this time. I closed my eyes and I felt a cold wind go into my ear. Suddenly, I felt a female voice say, "Should we tell him?" followed by the male voice saying, "No." I was alone at home at the time, and it was midday and sunny out, with plenty of sun in the room. I just laid there frozen, freaked out, and I pretended to sleep. That's kind of freaky. Next one was I went to sleep one night and had horrible nightmares. I had a dream that I was in another person's body. I dreamed that my real self gave a great speech to a body of students, one of whom I guess I had transferred consciousness into. After the speech, everyone applauded, and I heard someone talking about how great it was. Then, as I was standing in class, gunshots rang out. My consciousness was then transferred to my true body as I watched my best friend in real life shoot me point blank in the chest. I fell to the ground, and at that moment I woke up. I was unable to move or breathe, and I felt like it could only be described as a dark presence on top of me. I was fully conscious and aware, and I could not do anything at all. It's hard to describe the feeling. I knew in my mind that I was going to die. I struggled for what felt like forever to just move my arm. I thought I was done for when I finally was able to clench my fist. I gasped for air and threw myself off my bed, hoping to get some feeling back. I did, and after that night, it didn't happen again. I have had many times where I thought I was dying, only to realize that it was a dream, but I was completely awake and aware during the whole experience. I think about this time when I go to sleep, hoping it never happens again. I've had things like that happen. I've had other people tell me about things like that have happened. I don't know how to explain it, but it is freaky when you're kind of transported into somebody else's reality. Yeah, not a fun thing to be dealing with. Anyway, next one. I've told this story before. I wouldn't say scary, just puzzling. I was working on the computer in the office one afternoon. I was drinking coffee from a paper cup and left it on the desk next to the computer while I went to run an errand. There was no one at home while I was gone except for the dogs, and I was gone for about an hour. When I returned, I walked into the living room to get to the office, and on the ground, sitting perfectly, is my coffee cup. The dogs were running around like crazy, excited to see me and completely ignoring the cup. There was no teeth marks, no spilled coffee, no askew lid, nothing. It looked like someone carried the cup into the living room, placed it gently on the floor, and walked away. The dogs could not have moved the cup without leaving teeth marks, let alone even reach the cup. How it got put on the floor in the first place still baffles me. I felt someone push me down this ladder-type staircase when I was about 10. Fell over the side and hit my head on the wall next to it. Except no one was behind me. We actually were running out of the attic so quickly because we heard a noise, and my friend's house was haunted, supposedly. I was the one that insisted on playing up there because I didn't believe her. Definitely didn't tempt the spirits after that. I was once sitting on the side of the street around 12 a.m., really high. So because it was really high, I don't know, the credibility, but I was having a rough night and my emotions were crazy. I remember just feeling my emotions go crazy and my whole body felt like I was buzzing. Then I looked up and I promise I saw a black shadow of a teenage boy sitting 2 feet from me. My heart jumped and then it was gone from out of nowhere. My grandfather was a Basque sheep herder and was really into these Basque wooden carvings of shepherds you hang on the wall. He gifted me several over the years. He passed away a few years ago, and the next day after he passed, in the middle of the night, I woke up to a weird crash noise. One of these wood carvings was laying face down in the middle of the floor in the kitchen, way too far from where it had hung before. It would have had to jump over a lamp and sofa to fall like that. I had no explanation. So as I'm turning over, a second crash in the hall. Another wood carving falls off the wall in another room and slides all the way down the hall, into the kitchen, exactly to the same spot. What the fuck? Yeah, that's pretty much the only thing you can say to that. That's kind of weird. When I was a senior in high school, my friend and I were sitting in his car smoking a blunt. I'm not sure if weed was connected to me with some of the spirits, but for some reason I felt as if I could control things with my mind. Thus, I told my friend that I could turn the radio off and on with my mind. I proceeded to do this. I actually stared at the radio and it went off, and after exchanging looks with my friends in disbelief, I turned it back on. Then I made sure he wasn't touching anything, and I did it again. We both were looking at each other, freaked out. Not the scariest experience, but definitely freaked me out that I had just done that. Another time, I was at my uncle's house, which is notoriously haunted. It was a half museum, half house. We were walking through the museum part with him. I was the last one leaving the attic when I heard radio music come on and start playing right from where we had just left. Told my uncle, and he said that was a common experience for others, too. That was spooky. I was 19. It was Christmas Eve, and I was going to a friend's house for a bit. I never wore a seatbelt, but that night I grabbed a small blanket and put my seatbelt on. Something was urging me to do so. I was driving on a 2-lane highway in freezing rain. I was being careful and going slowly, no issues there, till the drunk driver hit me head on. Totaled my truck, jammed my door. I had to wiggle out of my small truck after the guys driving behind me got my door open. I had cuts on my knees and a busted lip. This was in 1992, before airbags. I had my blanket to keep me warm, and the guys took me into their car out of the rain until the medics got there. I was alive, and it could have been much worse if I hadn't put that seatbelt on. Yeah, seatbelt saved lives. That's kind of what people say. My favorite city to visit is Savannah, Georgia. So after I graduated college, my parents took me there for a long weekend to celebrate. My mother loves to watch those ghost hunter shows, and with Savannah being one of the most haunted cities, she was super excited. We stayed at the Marshall House, which was one of the oldest hotels in the city. It also happened to be a yellow fever hospital at one point in its long history. We ended up getting a suite with a bedroom separated via French doors to a living room with a fireplace and a pull-out couch where I slept. One night I was getting my bed ready, and my mother dearest comes in and puts one of those flashlights that you see the ghost hunt people use all the time, because it's very easy to turn off and on, in the middle, in the mantle of the fireplace, facing me. I said, "Oh, hell no." She thought it was the funniest thing. Fast forward to morning and no flashlight, thank the Lord. But apparently Dad got up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, and when he walked out of the bathroom, he had to close the boudoir door so as to make his way back to bed. He laid down, thought about it, then it dawned on him that he shouldn't have been able to get to the bathroom if the door to the boudoir was open to begin with. Mother was so excited that we could actually be in a haunted room. The last day there, we had breakfast delivered to the room so we could eat on the balcony on the rocking chairs. I had finished my food, so I came back in, sat on the couch, and started reading either brochures or a magazine or something. The ceilings were high, and there was a ceiling fan with 3 lights on it. But since we got there was only one of the bulbs worked, so we just supplemented with table lamps. No biggie. I hadn't turned on the lamp yet when Dad walked inside. He told me to turn on the lamp so I can see better. So as I started reaching for the lamp, both of the other bulbs on the ceiling fan turned on. At this point, Mother was pissed because nothing had happened to her yet, and the flashlight had yet to turn on. So she's talking to whoever was in the room, trying to provoke it. Probably could have done without that. We go to the bedroom, the bed of the last night, and the damn flashlight is still on the mantel. My parents shut the French doors, and I put the flashlight in my purse because I was over it. I fell asleep, but woke up at some point in the night to what sounded like someone getting up there in the chair from the room. Damn it. So the way the room was set up, the pull-out couch was on the same wall as the door that opened to the hallway. The fireplace was to my left, and the chair was near the lower left corner of the bed. Then I heard what sounded like heavy boots slowly walk from the chair around my bed towards the door, and then I heard a clink on the side table in between the bed and the door. I was not about to open my eyes and see some Civil War soldier standing next to my bed, so my eyes were glued shut, and I just remember thinking that if anything touches me, I'm out. What was probably 2 seconds, but felt like 2 minutes passed before I heard the boots walk down the hallway away from our door. At this point, my heart is beating out of its chest, and all I could think about was this damn flashlight is in my purse, so God help me. I waited a few minutes before I got enough courage to unfurl the blankets, eyes still closed, and reach for the lamp. When I did open my eyes, nothing, and nothing on the side table. Didn't sleep for the rest of the night, and my mother was still pissed that nothing had happened to her on the trip. I can understand that. I mean, the one that wants to see it the most, it's usually that's what happens. It doesn't happen. But it sounds like you guys had a good time and good experiences there, if you're into that stuff. I have insomnia and hypothyroidism, and honestly, this freaked me out for a bit too. I was watching video game Let's Play on YouTube, and it was around 2 a.m., and I suddenly felt like someone was watching me. I have my own place, so this was a weird feeling for me. I suddenly thought of my paternal grandmother, and I remembered how she ended up in a nursing home the first time. She had a seizure, and I remember being woken up in by my panic-filled dad. Tween me ran down the stairs to see my grandma convulsing at the foot of the stairs, and then the paramedics came. This is important as I went downstairs to check on our locks and doors, and I flicked on the lights on the way. I saw a ill-defined shadow creature just as the lights flicked on. It was tall and like someone drew a stick figure in the air. The thing appeared for a fraction of a second, precisely where I saw my grandmother convulsing in the home. I blinked, and it was gone. I have no explanation for this. Because I wasn't looking at any human-shaped things and the light was turned on, it wasn't bright enough to cause after images to appear. The summer after I graduated high school, I was working for an amateur theater group. This theater group performed in an old heritage building from the turn of the century. This building is notoriously haunted. There have been literally dozens of paranormal sightings in the last 20 years. My experience from that day was more unsettling than anything. I was operating the lighting board from the mezzanine level of the building, while the actors were performing a dance on stage. I looked away from the action for about 3 seconds. Then I looked back to the stage. One of the pictures of the piano had moved and was now reflecting the light from the ceilings directly into my eyes. That's pretty weird. I once received a remote-controlled Batmobile, Forever version, on Christmas as a child. I was so excited I took it out of the box and immediately began to play with it. I was joyous, but noticed that it wasn't exactly driving the way I controlled it. Then I began to realize why I was so excited that I forgot to insert the batteries, or turn it on. I put down the remote and excitedly showed my parents, hinting that it was the coolest experience ever. I began to tell it what to do and to follow me, and it did. We were in awe, but it was my sister who first began to freak out and panic at this unknown. Not the first experience in that home, but definitely the most memorable, especially since it wasn't just me who experienced it. Never got to play with that again. Why? I don't know, I guess maybe the parents thought it was possessed or something, but wow. Yeah, I guess possessed toys aren't really all that cool. I have a recurring dream that I swear is a repressed or maybe suppressed memory. In it, I'm about 3 years old, and it's late evening when the sun has gone down and there's still a little sunset left in the sky. My mother is going outside to rinse off some paintbrushes, and I go out with her to get one last ride on my tricycle before bed. Suddenly, she drops the water hose she's been using to clean the brushes, and before I can get scared, I'm going up very fast, looking down at my mom in the door of the house, then on the roof of the house, and then I wake up with the feeling that something's been taken from me, but I don't know what it is. Now for the weird stuff. When I was 3, my mother was into paint-by-number oil paintings and would rinse her brushes out to reuse them. I remember seeing a frisbee on the roof at the house in my dream, which my grandfather tossed off a few years ago when he was sweeping pine straw and limbs off the roof. It had been thrown up there before I was born. The only thing that makes this paranormal is that it fits the accounts of some people who claim to have been abducted by aliens. That hits a little close to home. I'm not going to comment. This will probably be long amongst I'll probably be lost amongst the rest of the comments, but it is a question I can answer, so here goes. When I was maybe 7, I was upstairs with my mom and sister. My dad was downstairs, and we were the only people in the house, so I was going from the loft off the stairs into the hall. My sister's bedroom and my parents' bedroom were on the other side of the wall, and the bathroom across from the entrance to the hall. I was going into the bathroom and had happened to look at my parents' bedroom while I was in the hall. The room was dark, but I could see into it. Standing there in the darkness was something not human. I know that room, the layout, where things are, and it wasn't furniture. It had, to the best of my memory, a head shaped like that of a gecko, I guess. The arms were very long, eerily so. The legs were short. The body, I don't know. I don't think ghosts exist. Monsters or whatever. I'm a Christian, so I definitely think demons exist. The best explanation is that is what it was. I don't know what else it could have been. It just was terrible. I still haven't recovered from it. I feel like when I'm alone, like I'm going to see that thing again, like that shadow creature is going to pop up just standing there sometime in the future. We moved out of that house eventually, which was good. A second, less scary thing that happened was that I saw a floating head in the glass of the washing machine. That would freak me out because I actually love doing laundry. So if my laundry machine became possessed, I'd probably cry. True story. I've had one explanation and one experience, but it was a doozy. When I was 16 or 17 at the time, I worked at a restaurant that stayed open till about 2 a.m. It had a bar in it too. So I got home pretty late. Sometimes I got groceries after, like I did with this particular night, and I got home even later. I had my 30-minute commute home where we lived in the boonies, and I was finally back home around 4 a.m. We lived by a lake in a pretty wooded area and had a big porch out front. I didn't pee at the store or on the way home, so I had to go. So, not having neighbors and being a guy, I found a tree. I grabbed my groceries and took them inside. It took forever because of where I had to park. I hated making 2 trips, but I couldn't carry my case of soda, so I went back for that. So I stepped out into the porch of what had been a hot, windy morning in Florida, then suddenly turned still and quiet. I paused, not sure what was off, but just that something was wrong. I saw a light in the front yard, like a car coming down the road with those fancy white lights. But the shadows of the tree were all wrong. The light was coming from above, not at the side. I became aware of a low hum, like an off-balance dryer far away. The light got brighter and brighter, and still no wind or movement. It was like that for, well, it felt like forever, but maybe like 45 seconds. Then, as suddenly as it was there, the shadows faded. But they never went left or right or whatever went up. I couldn't look up because the porch awning, so I was frozen in place. I don't know if I would have. I left the soda and bolted inside. Never could rationalize this one. Pretty sure aliens were cruising past, saw me taking a piss, and were like, hold up, I want to scope out what he's doing. You know, why not? Everyone's got a curiosity. Aliens, sure, why not? Not me, but my girlfriend. She was always said that she'd been watched at night by something. She and her mom moved into a new place. Her room had a small door that led to the attic. In that little space, there was a small hole. They thought animals made it, since who would want one there, so they taped it up. One night, she felt more spooked than usual. She kind of brushed it off and tried to sleep. She eventually felt the presence in her closet door. It was one of those mirrored closet sliding doors. Oh, God, I hate those things. Fell on her and shattered. Now, that can be weird in general, but after she cried and ran to sleep with her mom and went back to check on it the next morning, the tape was ripped off. Personally, I can't attest to her experience, but she said that we had been close to us when we sleep sometimes. I swear I can feel it. But those stories are just one after this, one of the two that are fucked up. I can post the crazy one later if y'all want me to. Probably people wanted to. Let's find out if they did. Ready? Well, the lesser of the two was while she came over to this house and I was dog sitting for her. The owner said it was cool, and I don't want to be rude and invite random people to strangers' houses. Laugh out loud. So anyway, she thinks I'm cute when I get drunk, so we drink. She drinks a little bit, and I've had a few beers mixed and a few mixed drinks. At this point, I was pretty drunk, which isn't a hard task. After a while, she gets panicky. At this point, I should probably give her a name. Haha, let's call her Emily. So Emily says I need to sober up and fast because she feels extremely threatened. I try to. Long story short, we try to force a positive atmosphere to make rusty feeling go away. Rusty. I could only feel it watch us as we were trying to sleep. It is the feeling of great immense pressure, the kind that holds you still. It is definitely paralyzing, and that terrifies me. We usually fall asleep. Well, we eventually fall asleep. Sorry for formatting and writing. I'm working, and it's on a mobile. I will tell you that that was the one that fucked me up for a while. This night, she came over to my place. We lived with my dad and his girlfriend. We shared some wine with them, and they wanted to hang out all night. She just wanted to play video games, so that's what we tried to do. My dad's girlfriend straight up yelled at her to get out. That surprised me. She doesn't really remember doing that, apparently. Anyway, I drank some tequila and beer and just calmed my nerves because I was going to tell her off if I wasn't calm. So the night gets sleepy, and I try to doze off. Thanks to the booze, it was easy. Now, this moment was intense and extremely terrifying to experience. I kept on falling in and out of sleep within seconds. Each time I fell asleep, I saw a woman in the bed next to me with a ghoulish face. I would try and reach out to her, and my body would freeze, and there was this deafening ring on both of my ears. Then I would barely move and wake up. All of a sudden, I was right back there, and she was closer to the effects. As the closer she was, the effects were multiplied. She finally got in my face, and I could feel her on top of me almost. My entire world was just shaking and ringing, and it made my head spin. I shot up and flew out of bed. I stayed up there all night. Maybe it was 30 seconds of pure terror, but that was enough time for me. Yeah, I don't blame you. I think that's enough time for anybody to deal with that. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please go watch another one, listen to another one. Tell me what you'd like to hear me talk about or read. I'm pretty open to almost anything I find on Reddit. Lots of stuff interests me. Hope it does you too. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, do all those silly, fun things. And we'll talk to you later. Bye.